Hey friends, welcome back to my sewing room. My name is Becca and I hope you'll enjoy your stay here. Before we get started, I'd like to ask you, if you're not already subscribed to my channel and you like what you see here, could you click that subscribe button down below? Subscribing to this channel costs nothing for you, but it means the world to me. When you subscribe to my channel, it lets me know that people are really interested in the videos that I'm posting here, and it encourages me to keep going. Okay, now let's talk about what we're going to do today. Creative Notions has a monthly sewing subscription box, and they started including patterns for 2 different blocks that will measure at 12.5 inches inside of each of their packages. The goal is that you'll make 2 of each of those blocks for a total of 4 blocks per month. And then at the end of a 6-month period, we're going to have a quilt that's going to measure 66 inches by 94 inches. They've coordinated with several YouTube channels to ask those content creators to create videos for putting these blocks together. I am going to work on the Tulip block, which I have here. This is what the Tulip block will look like when it's all done. And this is actually using the fabric from the kit if you were to buy the fabric kit with pattern from Creative Notions. Now, I only put 1 of those together. I do have a little tray of fabrics that we're going to use to turn this into the second block, because remember, I need to make 2 of those. So Andrea Matthews is the face behind Sugar and Spice Textiles, and she wrote all of these patterns specifically for Creative Notions. Andrea did reach out to me and asked me not to include any of the cutting instructions in my video. So I had to get creative with how I'm going to walk you through putting this together without sharing the cutting instructions. So if you take out your sheet of instructions, you're going to have underneath the Tulip block picture instructions for cutting, and it's going to list out what you need for your pink fabric, what you need for your green fabric, and what you need for your background. And so what I'm going to refer to these as is pink 1 and 2, green 1 and 2, and background 1, 2, and 3. And what that really refers to is the order that they're listed in the instructions. So for example, the first cutting instruction for pink would be pink 1. The second piece that you're going to cut would be pink 2. Same thing for the green. The first thing that it tells you to cut, that's going to be green 1. The second thing that you're going to cut would be green 2. And then for background, you have 3 cuts that you're going to cut. I'm going to call them green 1, green 2, and then finally green 3. That way we can talk about the pieces that we need to put this block together without giving away Andrea's intellectual property. If you do want these patterns, there's 2 ways to get them. The first way is to subscribe to the Creative Notions subscription box. When you do, they will give you any patterns that were provided prior to your join date. Or you can buy the fabric kit from Creative Notions, and when you do, you will get all of the patterns for all the blocks. Okay, let's get started. You can see here I've got all of the fabric pieces already cut out to make my Tulip block. And you can also see that I'm wearing my new Creative Notions t-shirt. Thank you, Vicki. So let's walk through putting this together. Okay, let's take a look down here so that we can see close up what we're going to do. All right, this is what our Tulip block looks like. The pattern wants us to work on these leaf blocks first, so let's set this aside. And we're going to get out 2 of our green 2 fabrics. I have them both cut here. And then we're going to get out 4 of our background 2 fabrics, and we're going to put these together. We're going to have 2 for each of these rectangles. For each one of the squares that we have, we're going to flip it over so that the wrong side is face up, and we're going to fold it corner to corner so that we have, when it's folded together, a little triangle. When it's folded, I'm just going to give it a quick crease with my finger, and I'm going to set it aside. What this is basically doing is giving us a mark corner to corner on each of these fabrics that we can use as a sewing guide when we attach our background squares to our green rectangles. Okay, now that I've got all of these pieces folded, we're going to assemble them into the corners of each of the leaf blocks. And the important thing that you're going to need to remember to do is make sure that your little triangles are going in opposite corners of that green rectangle. And that long edge should basically be running parallel to that leaf block. On the next block, you're going to mirror that image, so you're not going to put them in the same corners. Over here, we're going to put it like this. And that's it. This is what your leaf blocks should look like before you go to the sewing machine. Now, if it's easier for you to mark a line where that folded crease is, feel free to do that with a ruler and your favorite marking utensil. Next, we're going to take this to our sewing machine. We're going to open up these fabrics, make sure that this is matched up in the corner, and we're going to sew right in the valley from corner to corner on each of those background fabrics. Once you have these pieces attached, you're going to take a cutting utensil, and I'm just going to grab a pair of scissors because this is super quick and easy, and you're going to cut about 1/4 inch away from that seam that you just sewed. Then take this over and give it a good press. I'm pressing my seam towards the background. You're going to repeat all of those steps a second time to make the other leaf. Just make sure that you're doing a mirror image of what you did over here. Now both of our leaf blocks are complete, and this is what they look like. Now that the leaf part's done, the pattern wants us to start constructing the bud of the flower. We're going to start by making these 2 pieces of our tulip block. We're going to need 2 of our P1 or pink 1 fabric, 2 of our background 1, and 2 of our background 2. When you get your 4 squares from your background, 2 of them are bigger than the others, you're going to take the time to fold it so that you have a crease going corner to corner, or you can do like I did and just mark a line going corner to corner. To do that, I just put a ruler on my fabric and make sure that it's going from the corner here to the corner here, and I just mark it with my favorite marking tool. Once those are marked, you're going to grab your pink triangles and you're going to orient your smaller background fabrics in the top on opposite corners. So in this one, I've put it in this corner, and in this one, I've put it in this corner. So I don't have them in the same. That's going to give me my mirror image. Then you're going to put your background fabrics here. And you just want to make sure that these lines or creases that you put, they're running parallel to each other on the same block, but opposite the one on the other block. So you can see down here on this fabric, I have the lines going in this direction. And on this fabric, I have the lines going on this direction. And I'm making sure that the little background fabrics are on the inside, and then the bigger ones are going to be the same size as the width of this fabric. Now we're just going to stitch on that line. And then we're going to take our fingers and crease that fabric back to make sure that it looks right. This is what one of them should look like. This is what the other should look like. Should resemble essentially the same thing that we did with the leaf block. Then we're going to take our scissors and trim away the excess. So we'll just peek this top fabric up a little bit. Use our scissors and trim all that away. Then take both of these over to your iron and press them nice and flat. The next thing that we're going to do is work on the middle part of our tulip, which is this peak right here. And to do that, you're going to need the final rectangle that you have of pink and 2 more of those little background squares, which I think we said was B1. We're going to mark on the back side of those squares a line going corner to corner, and we're going to lay them in opposite corners at the top. This is kind of like putting a flying goose together. Flying geese, flying goose. I have a hard time saying that. The first thing that we're going to do is put this in the corner so that the line is starting at the edge and going up to the center. We're going to stitch on that line. And then before we put the other one on, we want to fold this back with our fingers. Make sure that it looks right. Then trim it so that all of this doesn't get caught in the seam allowance. pull this back open and take the other square and put it in the opposite corner and make sure that this line is also going from the outside up to the middle and stitch on that line. Then I'm going to take a second just to make sure that that did complete the way I wanted it to. If I did this correctly, I should have a nice 1/4 inch seam allowance right here at my peak. I'm going to trim off the excess and then take this over here to my iron and press it nice and flat. This is the middle part of our tulip block. Yay! Okay, now we're going to start assembling all of our pieces together. Okay, so now it's time to put our tulip bud together. And what we're going to do is take that middle piece that we just created and our 2 side pieces together and put them together so that we have the sides going in opposite directions. We don't want it to be background. We don't want it to look like this. This is what you don't want to do. You see how that doesn't look like a tulip? You want to arrange it so that it looks like a tulip. If you're doing this correctly, what you should have in the bottom corners of your bud are background, and then in the top you should have in the corners your pink, and then in the middle you should have these 2 triangles that you've created. Does that make sense? Hope so. I don't know how else to describe it. Good thing a picture is worth 1,000 words. You can see it for yourself. We're going to take these and put them right side together, or pretty sides together, and we're going to sew them onto either side of that middle section. I am going to take just a minute to pull these fabrics back and make sure that my background seams are laying directly on top of one another, and that's just going to give me a really nice point. You can pin that if you want to, but we all know that I am not the best when it comes to pinning fabric. So there's one. Here is the other. Line up those background pieces as close as you can, and then sew it 1/4 inch all the way off the block. I know the instructions say to press this towards the middle, but because of the bulk from those flying geese units, I do think that the block lays a bit flatter if I take the time to press these open. So you can do what works for you, but I am going to press these seams open. Now we have our tulip bud, and it's time to put our leaf unit together. To do that, we're going to take our final green fabric and our leaves, which I think I lost for a moment. And we're going to put our leaf units together just like this. You want to make sure that you have a background in each corner at the bottom and a background in the corners at the top that touch the middle part. And we're going to sew this seam and then this seam. And there's really not any seams to nest up or match up here. You're just going to make sure that that long piece of fabric covers the entire side of the leaf that you made. And for this one, there's not a lot of bulk that I have to worry about, so I'm just going to press it towards the center of that leaf stem. Then I'm going to put on my second leaf to the stem. I'm going to press this in towards the stem as well. So this is what our bottom piece looks like. Let's give this a good press before we put everything together. All right, that's nice and flat. Now our next step is to put the top and bottom of our tulip block together. So we're just going to lay them pretty sides together. There are no seams to nest up here. Just need to make sure that that raw edge matches. And we're going to sew along at 1/4 inch. It looks like the directions want you to press this seam open, but I did find that I was able to press down towards the bottom and it was okay. Again, you do what works for you. I've pressed that seam down towards the bottom, and now the final piece is to put on the 2 long strips of background fabric that we cut to either side of this block to finish it up. Okay, so this is it. This is our finished tulip block for the Creative Notions Block of the Month program. I hope you enjoyed putting this block together with me. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel and come on back because in September I will be doing the leaf block. If you're interested in seeing any of the other videos for this Block of the Month program, I do have a playlist that I've created for all 12 blocks that are being put together. You can check that out in the description box below. That's it for this video, guys. I hope you enjoyed sewing along with me. And don't forget to come back every Friday night at 9 p.m. Eastern Time as we do a live project right here on YouTube. Bye, guys. I'll see you later.